Hi there everyone, welcome to another episode of the Disgustingly Resilient podcast, and welcome to another episode of the mini-series The Foetid Fight Phase, where we go through all advanced little tips and tricks for you to get the most out of the fight phase with this army. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the tank shock stratagem, ways to use it, what it actually does in general, and so on and so forth. Just a reminder, if you do enjoy this content, please do leave a like and a subscribe. It's really important for us, lets us know, it lets the algorithm know that you guys are enjoying this, and we'll keep obviously making more, etc, etc. And obviously leave a comment if you want to as well. But yeah, let's get into it. So, today's topic. So, very quickly, recap Foetid Fight Phase. It's obviously a mini-series talking about advanced tricks to do with the fight phase. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a live example of a trick. Then you'll have me here. To break it down, so we're going to have, table Aiden being his usual self, and then obviously video Aiden right here to sort of talk about what you just saw. And again, we start simple and we sort of expand it outwards. So last time we talked about self-move blocking, we're going to try and incorporate that into some of the tricks going forward. But today's agenda is tank shock. So very basically, what is tank shock? So one command point, charge phase mortals, is kind of like the easy way to sum it up. So you need to be a vehicle to do this, so unfortunately Mortarian can't do this, but we have stuff like Hellbrutes, Defilers, and even your humble Rhino and your Plague Burst Crawls, etc. can pull this off, Foetid Bloat Drones, etc. And basically, after you make a successful charge, you spend one command point, you pick a melee weapon equipped by that vehicle, you look at the strength of that melee weapon, and you get that many dice. If the strength of that melee weapon is higher than our opponent's toughness, and bear in mind as Death Guard, we reduce that toughness by 1, then you get an extra 2 dice. Then you're going to roll all those dice, and for every result of a 5 or a 6, you're going to get to deal 1 mortal wound, capped at 6 mortal wounds. So this is obviously a really nice way to deal a bit of damage on the charge, and obviously melee walkers like Defilers and Hellbrutes can be a bit better, but it's a great way to chip off a last remaining wound or so with a character if you have something like a Bloat Drone or a Rhino nearby. So, what's so good about it? Mortal wounds, best wounds. Mortal wounds don't really get much interaction with. Some units do have rules feel no pain or rules against mortals, but a lot of units in the game just don't. So dealing mortal wounds is just a great way to deal surefire damage to your opponent and guarantee you get some damage through. The phase timing, as you're going to see, is really important. Being in the charge phase, it allows us to unlock a lot of things that we can follow it up with, which is really great. It's going to, again, just like the self-move block did, it's going to open up opportunity, open up opportunities for us to basically be able to do tricky stuff around it, so which is really good, as we'll see. And it allows Rhinos and Plague Burst Crawls to kill things that maybe you left on 1 or 2 wounds, and you're in charge range, and you've got nothing else nearby. Most people might just be like, oh, I guess it just lives, whereas if you've got a spare command point, you make the charge, you don't want to risk it, maybe you're just like, alright, 2 5s and this tank dies. Boom, 6 dice, odds say you get 2 5s, which is really great. And obviously, as Death Guard, -1 toughness quite often will gain us +2 dice for a lot of times that we charge into certain units, which is also really, really nice. Great example being like the Hellbrute being strength 12, charging into something like a Land Raider. It's normally T12s, normally you only get 12 dice. But if you Death Guard, because of Contagion, you're going to get 14 dice, which is really, really nice. But that's the rough basics of what tank shock is. But let's have a look now at some tricks. So I'm probably going to pass it over to Table Aiden here, call him a dick. Hi guys, welcome back at Table Aiden once again to go through some tips we're going to use with tank shock today. So the first one we've got here, I'll get rid of that dice there, is we're going to do as an example where we're going to use tank shock to get around a unit that has fights first. The irony obviously being that Custodians no longer fights first. Funny. But in this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to use our opponent's often used ability against them. So, quite common, what would happen is if you have a melee unit lining up a charge and in the shooting phase you were to shoot this unit, they would typically start killing models that are the closest. Because in doing so, they're actually increasing the range required for the charge from like a 6 to a 9. In doing so, they hope our charge fails and therefore we don't get to make melee. Instead, what we're going to do, and they might not because it's a fights first unit, for example, what we're going to do is we're going to shoot as normal, but what we're going to try and do is we're not trying to kill a model. We want to wound a model. So let's roll this out. So I'm going to shoot the plasma cannon, low power. So we're going to have 4 shots because of blast.
Let's hit on freeze, only 2 hits. Then we'll wounded on freeze with these guys. Yep, so only the one. Does he fail the save? Yes, he does. Hey, Custodes failed to save. So this guy's going down to 1 wound at the front. So now, I'm not going to shoot anything else at this model. Opponent might be expecting to kill him, but we're not actually going to do that. Instead, we're going to come to the charge phase. So we're going to look to charge the wounded model. So it's going to be a 6-inch charge. So, well, 6 away, so 5-inch charge. So we're getting it. Now, you could technically go anywhere with an 8 here. But specifically, what we're trying to do is we're going to base this model on the 1 wound and stay out of 1 inch of the other models in the unit, which we have done. Now, what's good here is that we're going to use Tank Shock. Now, in this instance, I'm using the Hellbrute because I want to show a little trick the Hellbrute can do that other vehicles can't. The Hellbrute naturally does D3 mortal wounds on the charge, so this could actually just save us all our trouble. So, on a 2-up, sod's law. But let's assume like we do the Tank Shock instead. What we're going to do is we're going to Tank Shock. The reason we're going to Tank Shock now is because our opponent has to put any damage this unit takes on the wounded model already. So if he'd put the wounds on this model here, we'd have made the charge to this guy here instead. Again, make sure we're staying out of an inch of everything else. But let's carry everywhere. So what we're going to do, let's just assume our mortal wounds go off, so we need to do a single mortal wound. There we go. We're going to do 2 there, and obviously I should have a ton more dice because it's a Hellbrute with Tank Shock. It should be like 14 dice, but he has to kill this model. So this model dies. Now, because this model's dead, his unit is outside of engagement range. So the charge phase ends. We go into the fight phase. Is his unit within an inch? No. Therefore, it's not eligible to activate. However, the Hellbrute has made a charge move, which means this turn, I can still pick it to fight, even if it's not an engagement range. And remember what we talked about in the first video? When a model or a unit is activated to fight, it sees its full process. It sees it through fully. So that involves the piling, the fight, and the consolidate. So even though this unit's got fight first, I can pick him to fight, pile in, and because I've already started the activation, their fight first doesn't matter. I'm going to see through his full attacks. So in this instance, let's select 5 attacks. In on freeze, I'll probably whiff it, because of course I will. Okay, I've had 2s to wound. Cool, 4. Hey! Custodes effects. So in this instance, he's actually going to have killed the entire unit. But what we did there, so remember, we charged the wounded model, made sure to stay out of engagement range of the other models, used Tank Shocks because our opponent has to put the damage onto the wounded model. The Tank Shock / Hellbrute ability killed it in the charge phase. We're still eligible to activate. We then pile into the engagement, and because we've already been activated at that point, our opponent can't use fight first to go before us. Okay, back to presentation, Aiden.
And welcome back. Thank you for that good Sir Table Aiden. I never badmouthed you once. But yeah, hopefully, as you just saw then by Table Aiden, hopefully you taught well. What we can actually do in the scenario we just witnessed is we use our shooting to deal a bit of chip damage to a couple of multi-wound models. So the idea being that we just take 1 wound off like a 3-wound elite, or maybe it's, you know, squadron of vehicles like Paragon suits, you wound one of them. Something that possibly has fights first, which is obviously not something you want to have happen against you because it's quite nasty. And what we're going to do basically is once we've wounded it, we're going to stop shooting. We're going to keep that model alive because the rules state that once a model has taken wounds, par characters and bodyguard stuff, precision attacks, just ignore that for now, it gets complicated. But in general, once a model has had wounds allocated to it, that model has to keep taking wounds until it is dead. So this means that when we charge in to engagement range of that single model, making sure we stay out of an inch of the other guys, we can use Tank Shock to deal mortal wounds that have to be assigned to that model. What this means is that model has to be removed. It means it's dead. Then, we remember back in the first video and what we talk about now, charging models are always eligible to fight. So even though, at this point, neither the charging, Tank Shock unit or the opponent is in engagement, the charging unit still gets to do a pile-in. So now, you activate it, you pile into a unit, and now you're free to swing because once a unit's been activated, it sees its full procedure through. and you basically just got around fight first. And not only fight first, this can also be done if you're worried about an opponent's going to use an interrupt stratagem. So you can do the exact same here. You charge the wounded model, kill it. Then you, in your fight phase, you pick the other place you want to fight first. You go fight over there, knowing they can't interrupt because you're not within engagement range of them. But then, once you've finished your fight over there, you come back over here. You pick the tank that charged because it has charged this turn, so it's still eligible to fight. And then you pile in, and away you go, 2 fights there without getting interrupted, and also dodging fight first. So it's a really cool little trick. Shoot a model, wound it, charge that model, kill it with the charged models, then pile in and punch away. It's a really cool little trick you can do, and it's always fun when you pull it off because you're like, galaxy brain. But yeah, let's see what the next trick is though that Aiden's got in store for you. Let's have a look.
Okay guys, welcome back again. So in this example, we're going to teach you how to use Tank Shock to basically get as much value and allow us to kill something in our charge and with our fight, 2 separate units. So we're going to use the Tank Shock trick, stratagem, not trick, to kill one thing on the charge and then use the movement and the fight phase to engage another unit and potentially kill that. So in this example, we have our friendly Hellbrute, we have a enemy battle tank, gladiator, plagueless scroll thing, and a transport. Our army's shot this turn. We've dropped the tank to 5 wounds and the transport to 5 wounds. None of them are dead. Most people here are probably going to think, okay, Hellbrute, let's look at this charge range. So we've got about 9 to the Rhino here. It's not great reliable, but we've only got like a 4-inch charge to this plagueless crawler here. So most people are thinking, okay, we'll just charge this thing, tank shock it, kill it, jobs are good. But that's true, and that does work. But instead, we can use tank shock here to get more value out of this Hellbrute. This Hellbrute's probably going to die. The contents in the Rhino are probably going to kill him. It is what it is. But we're going to try and get the maximum value we can before he goes down. So we are going to charge the easier charge, just like before, because again, we don't want to risk an 11, because if we fail that, we've done literally nothing. So, 9, whatever it was. So we do actually roll an 11, or Sod's Law. Now, remember, we don't have to go directly to. We have to base, but we can use our full movement. So instead, we're going to come right down the side of this plagueless crawler. The only caveat being that we stay an inch away from this Rhino, which we are. But we're making sure that we're within 4 inches of the Rhino, as you'll see. So, first things first, the Hellbrute does his natural D3 mortal wounds on the charge, so it goes off, how many? For 2 mortal wounds, so he's down to 3. Then we're going to spend our command point and do the tank shock, so I don't have enough dice here, so just stick with me. So there's already 2 off the first 5, there should be 14 dice. There you go, there's the 3rd. This plagueless crawler is now dead. Does he explode? It does, sod's law. For 2 mortal wounds, so both him and the Hellbrute take some damage. Now, that doesn't really matter. So we have killed the plagueless crawler / gladiator as originally intended. But now, because of the position we've used, and the fact we killed this thing in the charge phase, we are still eligible to activate to fight. So in the fight phase, we can pick the Hellbrute because he's made a charge move this turn, which makes him eligible. And what now is the closest eligible enemy unit? Well, it's the Rhino. And we finish within 4 because if you pile in, you have to end in engagement range. So if we were 5 inches away, we wouldn't be able to do this. So if we went to the front of the tank, we couldn't do this. So I went round the side. So we're going to activate him, pile into the closest enemy unit. Bonk, like that. And then we get to make our melee attacks against the Rhino. So let's make the melee attacks. Don't do what I've just done there. Pull everything. I've also made too many attacks. 1. Does he die? It does, thank God. Hopefully you won't roll as terribly as I did. But at this point, we have also now exploded the Rhino. So at this example, we have charged 1 unit. That. Tank. We have used the stratagem plus the Hellbrute. That's why the Hellbrute's really good at this. But we have used the stratagem to kill this. And then used the rules of the fight phase to pile into another unit that was nearby. This one. And engage that one in close combat and used our close combat to kill that tank. So we've gone in this example from killing just the 1 battle tank with tank shock or just meleeing it to using tank shock to kill this guy to springboard into the Rhino and kill both of them. So even though the Hellbrute's going to die now to the 10 Plague Marines or whatever gets out, at least he's got the maximum value that he could possibly have got. Okay, back to Aiden.
Well, that fiendish devil table Aiden's probably taught you another trick, hasn't he? Well, I'm here to explain it again once more for you. So in the scenario you've just saw, basically, what we've done is just like in the first video where we kind of charged and then used self-move up to pile into a secondary unit. Instead, we're using Tank Shock to basically charge the primary target, so the first target, we charge that. We're going to make sure we put ourselves within 4 inches, because we have a 3-inch pile-in and then an inch of engagement, of a secondary target. We activate Tank Shock and we use the mortals to kill the original primary target we charged. So now we are not in engagement because the target is dead, but we are within 4 inches of a secondary target. Once again, charging units always activate. So then we will pick the charging unit that just Tank Shock to activate. It can pile in 3 inches towards that secondary unit that's within 4. Now you are in engagement and you are free to swing away into that secondary unit. So this is a great way to sort of get 2-for-1 trades, or find weird angles to engage stuff. Bear in mind, you don't always have to be like trying to kill the secondary unit. Sometimes just locking them up can be really good, because then they can't do certain things. There's all little tricks you can do with this ability to sort of Tank Shock, kill one unit, and then consolidate or piling into a second unit. Maybe that gets you onto an objective. Maybe in this instance, like I said, it kills a rhino and picks up a free kill. There's loads of little uses for it, and as you start to use tricks like this, you will see the sort of things you can do. Sometimes you'll do it just to tie someone up, because then again, if you tie someone up, not only does a unit now have to fall back, but if anything wants to shoot you, they're -1 to hit unless it falls back. So you get all the pretty good little uses out of it. And yeah, so you want to get a bit of a 2-for-1 trade there. It's always quite good to look for, again, think about where you're charging. Don't just go straight towards the opponent. Think, is there a secondary target that I can do anything with? And will Tank Shock allow me to do tricky things here? Alright, but again, we're going to pass you back over to the table, Aiden, for one more little trick that he's going to show you in this episode. See you in a second.
Alright, so the last example we're going to look at today is using Tank Shock to open up stuff like transports to allow other units to get to the good contents inside. So let's say this guy wasn't here. We had Death Shroud plus Rhino. These rapid ingressed in last turn. They've moved forward. They're now 4 inches away because of Typhus moving 5, thankfully. The rest 5 away. Typhus does his mortal wound thing, goes off, does what? 3 mortal wounds, blah, 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 blah. This thing's down to 7. This Hellbrute can walk over with his movement. He's going to shoot his plasma cannon. He gets, 1 hit. He hits. Does he wound? He does wound it. There you go. It fails its saves. That's another 3 damage on there. So this thing's down to 4. So at this point, we have nothing else to shoot. The sprayers, let's assume, have done nothing. These guys are safe in here. So if we were to just now be stuck and with just these fellas, or just some plague marines, something that's all shot, the only thing we can really do is charge the rhino, kill it, the guys get out. We don't really want that to happen. We want to kill the contents. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our Tank Shock, and we're just going to use simple sequencing to be able to engage the Plague Marines inside with our Death Shroud. So first thing first, real simple, we're going to charge with the Hellbrute. So we're going to do a nice charge, easy, 9. Now remember, don't always go straight towards. If we go straight towards, we're going to leave a gap over here for them to get out the safest. It's not great for them, but it's safer than everywhere else. So instead, we're going to go straight to the center over here. What this means is, when we Tank Shock, they have to fully get out within 3. So that means it's either now going to have to be a choice of here, which is really close to the Death Shroud, and the Hellbrute might even get in for piling, or on this side, which again is safe. If we went to here with our charge, because we just went wherever's closest, there's a much larger safe spot they can get out over here. There's still a good chance we make the charge, but again, we want to keep the odds in our favour. So I'm going to put him straight there. So we'll do our Tank Shock. So natural mortal wounds, they go off. They do 2, and then Tank Shock for a CP will definitely do 2 mortal wounds. So the Rhino's going to die. Now at this point, our opponent has to get out his Plague Marines. So he's probably going to pick over here, the safest place he can get, of which none of it is really safe. Now because this is all done in the charge phase, we, after this has been fully resolved, are still eligible to declare a charge with the Death Shroud. So the Rhino dies, and now this guy's made a charge move, but the old fellas over there haven't, and Tank Shock is done in the charge phase, not at the end of it, so we're still eligible to declare a charge. So these guys are now going to charge into here. So they get it nice and easy, 6 inches, And again, look at how we strung these guys out to cover both sides, so there was no easy way for them to get out. So always think of these little movements. 6 inches, he can base, goes there. This guy can't base, but he's going to come in and he'll be able to with the piling. And then we come to the fight phase. Even funnier, this guy can actually activate piling and just do that, because again, he made a charge move this turn. And now we have this unit of 10 infantry that whatever it was inside a Rhino that is now being basically mauled by 3 Death Shroud, Typhus, and a Hellbrute. So that's one way you can use Tank Shock to open up stuff like transports. Remember sequencing. So you declare the Hellbrute first. He goes in, does the Tank Shock, cracks it open. The guys get out, and then other units in your army like the Death Shroud can then declare them as a charge and take them out. This one's really simple, really easy, but it's always a good tool to remember, because you could have a Rhino on like 1 wound, for example, and your Death Shroud are right next to it, hoping you killed it in the shooting phase, and you didn't, unfortunately. But you've got a Plague Bus Crawler nearby. Plague Bus Crawler is terrible in close combat, but if he makes the charge, cool. You just remember that Tank Shock, so you only get 6 dice, but all you need is a single 1 to kill this Rhino. So there you go, single 1. This now dies, the guys have to get out. They can't come out over here because it's all blocked off, so they have to come here, like this. And then you're free to charge and kill them with the Death Shroud. Whereas if you were to do it if you were not to remember Tank Shock, and you instead charge the Rhino with a Death Shroud, they come in, kill it, Rhino dies in close combat. These guys all get out, and then next turn these guys charge you and kill your guys instead. So remembering access to Tank Shock, even on things like Plague Bus Crawlers, Rhinos, to finish off transports and stuff like that that are on low amount of wounds, can really enable you to then kill an entire 10-man squad plus characters inside as well. So always remember Tank Shock is a tool for you to use to do certain things like this, cracking open transports, killing important things. Even funnier, there's like Makari, like who has a 2-up invuln in Orcs. You can use Tank Shock to guarantee kill him because the mortal wound has to go on him first, or you can put it on Gaz, but on Gaz take damage, etc. But that's for another day. For now, yeah, little trick there, just kill transports with any little Tank Shock you have. Anything that's left low, always remember a cheeky Tank Shock can serve you well.
And welcome back to Video Aiden for the last time this video. So as we just saw in this one, we're actually using the Tank Shock timing of being in the charge phase to set up new charges. So what's really good for this is that, as you saw, we basically charged the Rhino, killed the Rhino with a Tank Shock, but because it is the charge phase, we're still eligible to declare more charges. So what we've basically done is charged, use the Tank Shock to open up the Rhino, the contents now get out of the Rhino, and then anything that was nearby is then free to charge the new unit that just disembarked. What's even better about this is because the Hellbrute, or the Tank Shocking unit, still has to pile in and swing, it can really make them, you can kind of guess where they're going to deploy, because if their choice is going to be get piled in for free on by a Hellbrute / Defiler, they're probably not going to take it. So that means you can probably predict whereabouts of the transport they're going to disembark and set up a nice easy charge and catch your opponent in a no-win situation. So either you get piled into by the Hellbrute / Defiler / vehicle that's charged, or you eat a charge from a secondary unit like the Death Shroud, as you just saw. Now, it's not even just this little trick you can use it for, as we'll see in a second in the summary, but this can also be used to clear screens that open up extra charges. Maybe that, maybe there's a unit of, like 5 Sisters of Battle just blocking a charge because you can't move through opponent's models in the charge phase, and you really wanted to charge the Immolator behind it or something. Now you go in, Tank Shock, kill the sister screen, and now you're free to charge past that screen that was there and is now piece of jam on the floor spread all over the place from the Tank Shock. So always look for stuff like that as well. But hopefully these are cool little tricks that you can use to basically try and get little ways to set up things and crack transports and get to the juicy goods inside, or to take out 2 units instead of 1, or in the first example, I can't remember what we did now because this is the magic of recording in sections. But hopefully these little tricks that you've learned are going to be helpful in your games going forward and show you the actual utility that Tank Shock can bring. So to summarise, what makes Tank Shock go so good? Charge phase timing. As you saw in that last example, being able to do it in the charge phase is just weird. Not much damage gets dealt in the charge phase, so you can do some really weird things with it. Use positioning to advantage, just like we do with self-move blocking. It's all about where we position our models. So when you go for the tank shock, you can again use positioning to look for those secondary targets. You can also use it if you're against a transport to sort of dictate where the opponent's going to get out of. Look for things like I can go here, tank shock this weird unit. Like if maybe a single guy is sticking out of a building, you can charge that, tank shock it, and then your opponent is put into a situation where he either stays in combat with the charging unit, or you kills the one model with tank shock mortal wounds, but then that tank shocking unit might be then free to pile into another unit that was nearby. So again, always look for these advantages that you can get with positioning. Mortals are kind of bullshit. They just are. Like anyone that watched my last event recap, 14 mortal wounds to your Land Raider Redeemer derp. They're kind of daft. Do also remember anything that does disembark from a transport, as if you kill it with tank shock or any method, will be battle shocked. So if you charge it and kill it with a tank shock and it gets out, disembarks, it's then battle shocked. So if you then charge it with something else, they can't use defensive strats, interrupt, or anything like that, which is also really good. But yeah, mortals are just kind of daft. Most things don't have a defense against it, and 3 damage is 3 damage, so always look for it. Again, maybe the character left on 1 wound, drive over it with a rhino, tank shock it, it's kind of funny. But yeah, this can honestly be used to set up extra kills and charges. Again, look for those little combinations that you can do, clearing screens, piling secondary units. Just get creative with it, and the more you kind of look, just keep it in the back of your mind that tank shock exists, because every time you look at a board and go, right, it's the charge phase, any tank shocks anywhere, and maybe you find a weird tank shock that opens up an opportunity you didn't originally see. A lot of people don't even think about tank shock. If they haven't brought a melee walker, they're like, nope, tank shock, we're never going to use it. But sometimes, a rhino gets 8 dice against infantry. Just saying, like, 8 dice is like 3 odd mortal wounds just about, which might not sound much, but I have seen rhinos roll hot and deal full 6 mortal wounds before. It can really happen, and it can really throw people off. So get creative. Maybe in your practice game start wasting a bit of CP on tank shock just to see what happens. But yeah, just give it a try and start trying out, and bring Hell Roots and Defiles because they're fun as well. And haha, strength 16 fist go bonk. But that's everything for today's lesson. I hope you learnt a new little trick. I hope you learnt something cool. Thank you so much for watching, as usual. Again, I will continue this series doing little tricks. We'll do some defensive tricks maybe next that you can do, because that's really cool. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our sponsor, Saltire Games. If you are after any gaming aids that are specifically disgustingly resilient themed, they do offer a set of gaming aids for contagion range, deep strike markers, infected objective markers, etc, etc. Check them out on Etsy. Link is in the description below. Use promo code NERGLE and you'll get 10% off your order, and we get a little kickback for the channel, which is really great. If you want to learn a bit more about playing the game, maybe you want to up it to the next level whilst maintaining a good aura of sportsmanship, check out our affiliate link below for Vanguard Tactics. People I play for, people I coach for. It's a great bunch of lads and lasses, basically just all about playing 40k competitively, but with the right positive mindset and being a great opponent at the same time. So check those guys out. And then obviously thank you so much again for the YouTube members. Again, if you do enjoy the content, like and subscribe, comment, blah blah, all the algorithm stuff. But if you want to support the channel even more, consider becoming a member. You get access to the Discord, we have giveaways. Currently you're all plotting my next awful list to take to a doubles tournament, I think with Will. Or someone else, we'll see who's available. So you can get involved in all that kind of stuff. We have giveaways, etc. And again, it just massively helps out the channel. So for now, everybody, though, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next episode. Stay rotten, everyone, and take care. See you later.